Yo, this is Haskins, and this is CCP Podcasting.
What is happening, friends of CCP Podcasting? Welcome back to Beyond the Bell. I am Chris Page. That is John Cable, and we are wrapping up the month of June, man. Can you think that, did you ever think that here we would be 3 months into this?
No, that is definitely not where I thought we would be at this point. It's a very long stretch away from where I thought we would be at this point. And realistically, we have everything in debt to the fans out there who keep watching us for some reason to keeping this thing going and making this dream a reality day by day as we go.
It is a adventure for sure. You know, we always say professional wrestling brings people together, and this platform is definitely proof positive of that. We've had a stellar month of June so far. We've had guys from Australia. We had either either someone from the UK or here in the States, depending on scheduling at this point. We're gonna end it going back to reality of wrestling, guys. We got Mr. Kirby Carreon here. How's it going, my man?
It's going pretty good. I'm excited to be here. I love podcasts and I love talking, so it's kind of like the best environment for me.
Oh well, you're in the right
Well,
place.
You shouldn't. Yeah, you're in the right place.
100%. So we had Emily Taylor on probably live a couple of months ago at this point. And I had a blast with her. Had such a good conversation, good time. And randomly, as I'm scrolling through social media, I saw you throw out a post and was like, "Hey, if anybody wants to talk, I'd love to talk to people about wrestling, et cetera, et cetera." And well, I kind of what we do. So I jumped all over it because it's rare that like you see somebody come out and say, "Hey, I want to talk to you guys about wrestling." Most of the time, you know, guys that are in the industry will talk about it on their socials, and but they won't really like say, "Does anybody want to talk to me? Anybody want to talk?" And Alas, here we are, and I am pleased to have you. Number one, because we have had in-ring talent, we have had ring announcers, we have had producers, we've had one play-by-play guy or color guy on the show before, but you're going to be like literally the second on that side of the coin because something John and I really stress is that everybody's job in the industry is crucial. It's critical, all the way down to putting the ring together. From your ring announcers to your commentary team to your production team to the in-ring talent, like everybody's job is so critical. If one thing is misfired, then the whole operation for that day could be misfired. So it's glad to have you here. Number one, love the fact that you love to talk. Number two. So before we get too deep into this party, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our channel and to our viewers?
Alrighty, so let's see, where do I start? My name is Kirby. I was born 1992. No, I'm kidding. So, okay, my name is Kirby. I have been in professional wrestling for 8 years now, actually. Just celebrated my 8 year anniversary on April 22nd, something like that. I have it on my calendar, so that's how I remember it
Also,
every year.
you just celebrated.
Yeah, so I've been in the industry for 8 years now. Started just as a student, wanted to be a manager. Actually, I had no interest in being a wrestler myself, but I knew that I had to, pay my dues, learn the craft and everything. So I was like, sure, I'll learn how to bump. I'll learn, all the physical stuff, all the in ring, the footwork and all that stuff. And then, as luck would have it, we were down a camera person, and me being the person that I am, I was like, I can do that. And that's how I met Kevin, the producer, executive producer, whatever you want to call him, the everything man at Reality of Wrestling. And I started doing hard cam, and then that led me to being a hard cam person. And then I learned how to do production because I realized that we were missing things. And I was like, I want to do production. So I learned that, and that's where I fell in love with everything, like all the little pieces of wrestling outside of the wrestling itself. And then again, as luck would have it, commentary spot opened up, and I had been doing my own content on wrestling for like 2-3 years at the time. And I was like, "Hey, Book, can I be a commentator?" And doing it in a Book way, he challenged me to do something before I earned it, and I did it twice. And so he's like, "Sure, you can be a commentator." So then I started commentating, and that was 3 years ago now, because I think Summer Champion's about to come back up again, and that was when I first started. So I've been an official, actual like wrestling commentator for 3 years now.
That's a I think that it's great when you find your niche, right? Like, everybody that wants to be in the business or get in the business, some are garnered towards in ring, some are garnered towards behind the scenes to on air talent. To see how one can say, okay, this is what I want to do. Coming in and running the hard camera and then shifting over to production because you're seeing things that you're missing. I think that is the passion that drives, I think, anyone to be in the business. I think that it's fantastic that you're working with Booker in Reality of Wrestling. How did that opportunity come about? What led you to Reality of Wrestling?
So I've lived in Houston basically for almost my entire life. I moved here from Mexico when I was 8 years old. So I've stayed around Houston ever since then. And as I got older, I realized like wrestling is like something I've never experienced before. A lot of people know this about me, and it's not. My life's an open book, so like I don't like shy away from any of the stuff from my past or anything. But if it wasn't for wrestling, I legitimately would not be here, and that's not a sentence I take lightly. So I just love professional wrestling as more than anything in this world. My girlfriend even knows this. When we started dating, I told her, if it comes between you and wrestling, I'm going to choose wrestling. She's like, okay, no, that's fine. I get it. It's your thing. Like, I fully get it. So when I started getting into the industry, I decided that I was going to go to Reality of Wrestling because I was Booker's school in Houston. So it's like, oh, it's already here. I can just go find it. And, it's right here. It's right up the corner. So I went to something they call a fantasy camp, and that's basically where they give you 5 hours of training, very, very, very basic training. And Booker's there, and then he does a Q&A after, and it's to kind of get your feet wet, and be like, do you really want to do this? Is this fun for you? Type of thing. And the reason I knew that I wanted to do this more than anything in this world was because the day before my fantasy camp, I won a sweepstakes to be an extra for Pitch Perfect 2, and the recording for that scene was in Louisiana, New Orleans to be exact. So 6 hours away. Me and my sister drove to New Orleans. We did the filming and everything. And by midnight, they were still not done. They're like, we need people for more takes, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, I have my thing tomorrow. I gotta go. So we left. At midnight, drove 6 hours. So we got back home at like 6:30 because we had to make stops for gas and everything. And then so I get home to sleep at 6:30 in the morning, and I had to be up at 8 a.m. for row the next day for the fantasy camp, or else I was gonna miss it. My $100 were gone. I woke up 90 minutes later, fully refreshed, ready to go, excited out of my mind. And that has only happened 4 times in my life, when I know that I wake up fully energized, ready to go, when I'm really excited to do something. So I'm like, 90 minutes of sleep, and that didn't stop me from, being fully ready to go for that. I was like, this is it. I know that this is what I want to do. So it was a really easy call. After that, I took a year to get things settled and prepared to really start. And that's when I started in 2016. So that's honestly how I knew that I wanted to do it.
John, go ahead.
That's an amazing story. I love
I
that.
like that. Yeah.
It just sounds like you're it sounds like you're running on my kind of a sleep schedule. I can get behind that 100%.
Yeah.
You so you were in Houston, you decided you wanted to do wrestling. What was the ticket for you to want to go pursue that? Like how did you decide to go set that up for yourself?
So that was 2016 when I started. That was right after, like a few years after Sami Zayne won the NXT title, and that was like it was an amazing time. Like I'm a gigantic Sami Zayn fan. Current wrestlers, he's my favorite. Like they're not nobody even comes close. I love the art of wrestling. I love the performers. They're all like,
He
you
is
know,
a student of it for sure.
yeah. So Sammy's like my guy because I in my life, in my heart, everything, I believe that no matter what, the good guy always wins. And the people that have good intentions, that believe in themselves more than anybody, will win always. So I had just seen Sami Zayn win the NXT title, and I was stuck at work, just like doing my regular stuff, being a GM at a restaurant and everything. I was like, I can do wrestling. Like I know I can. If Sammy can win the NXT title after everybody telling him that he's not good enough, I can do something with my life because people always told me I'm not good enough to do like the big things and stuff. So I started, thinking about how I could do that because I was in December 2014, and that was right before I did the fantasy camp. So I just started figuring out how I could get to school, and then I just kind of started my road there because Sami Zayn inspired me to start doing that, and I finally found my way to start doing it 2 years later. And the funny thing is, to this day, everybody at the school knows Sammy's my guy. If he wins a big match, if he turned healed, whatever it happened, everybody texts me, it's like, "Hey, are you okay? Hey, how are you feeling right now?" I'm like, "I'm okay. Everything's fine."
There were a few months there where your phone was just blowing up. Then wasn't it? There was.
I
It
will
seemed like
never forget.
every other day there was a Sammy event.
I will never forget the day that Sammy turned heel because when he pulled Kevin Owens off the table, like when Shane was jumping off the Hell in a Cell. Because on Monday, the next day, Brian Keith was at the school, and he's like, "Dude, are you okay?" I was like, "I'm really not," because I did not expect him to turn heel, but that's okay. It's a story. But obviously, I still got emotional because like my guy turned heel. I'm like, he's still my guy, but he'll find his way. So, through
Yeah.
everything, I was like, he's my guy. I'm going to celebrate his wins because, again, at the end, the good guy's always going to win. I know he's going to turn face eventually again, and he's going to have the run of a lifetime. And look at him now. So I'm like, semi fans are eating good right now.
No doubt, man.
That's facts.
First of all, anybody who tells anyone that they're not good enough, fuck you. And I mean that from the
Yeah.
bottom of my heart. Because that's not okay. But what I dig about that is how you took that and you turned that into the biggest positive for you. And utilize that to get yourself in position to get into the industry. We've been on the air for like 5 minutes, and I can already tell that your passion for professional wrestling rivals mine, and that's very hard to do. And I dig the fact that you took that negative, you spun it into a positive, and not only did you spin it into a positive, you really sat down and laid the groundwork for how you were going to get here and how you were going to do it. Something you said a second ago that I want to circle around on real quick is you took a year to get your affairs in order, because one of the biggest misconceptions, and I really think that some guys and gals that are trying to get into the business now, they sometimes they lack that preparation. So walk me through, how did you prepare yourself? You took that 12 months. What was that step? What was that process like to get everything in order for you, and how did that look for you?
So the whole year, funny enough, I probably should have focused more on like the physical stuff because I've never been an athlete. Never been an athlete. You ask me to do a push-up, I'm like, I can do a quarter of one, and then you'll be good. People do sit-ups. I'm like, I can't do sit-ups, and like I hated working out, and I was like, I just don't do this. I just want to be a manager, so I'm just gonna tough it out. That's what I'll do. I'll tough it out because if this is what I want to do, I'll just tough it out. So for me, getting my affairs in order was making sure that I had the schedule and I had the money to be able to fully support this one way or another. And that was when I was working my way up in a kitchen over in Katy, Texas. And that's when I started saving my money up. I made sure that I had a bit of a savings, and I'm lucky for me. I had one of the best mentors who truly taught me how to budget properly because I never really had somebody to like look up to or teach me things. So I had to learn everything myself. And so he taught me how to budget, he taught me how to do everything, and he showed me how to buy my own car, he showed me how to get my own insurance. Like he basically taught me everything on how to be an adult. And I was like 23 at the time. So I was like, prime for like learning how to do all that adult stuff. And because of him, I got, like I said, got all my affairs in order. I still didn't work out, and I should have, but I knew that I at least had the money, and eventually I had the time to do it. And as I started doing wrestling and everything, I figured out just how tough this was going to be. And the fun part was when Jinder Mahal won the championship, because he's number 2 on my list for current favorite wrestlers because of his story. And that was when I started getting in shape, and everybody was like, "Oh man, this kid actually does want it," because I lost a lot of weight and everything. So, they, even though I wasn't going to be a wrestler and everybody knew that, they still saw how much work I put in, just to even get looked at, to so to speak, and everything. And then I started doing hard cam, and that's how it all just went on from there. So for me, getting my affairs in order was literally just getting the money and the time to get down there, and then just the sacrifice of my friends knowing that I want to do this, and they're like, "Also, we're not going to see." I was like, "Probably not," because school is like an hour and a half that way. It's still in Houston, but it's an hour and a half that way. So it was a whole trial and tribulation thing for a while.
We were talking to Emily, and this is like one of the biggest. It opened my eyes. She had made a comment because she just talked about how hour and a half that way, how big Houston is, and how many companies run in Houston. To the guy, man, dedication to make that hoof.
Yeah.
Tampa's not the same little beast that a city like Houston or a city like Jacksonville is. It's different being in a city that size.
My favorite joke to say about Houston to people that aren't from Houston, you know how they say that Texas is 13 hours away from Texas, and it's true. Houston is an hour away from Houston. So
Yep.
that is facts. Like, and if obviously if you live in Houston, it's like, oh, that's Clear Lake, oh, that's the Woodlands, oh, that's Katy, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, no, if you go to an outsider, you just gotta tell them it's all Houston.
It's still Houston.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
still Houston. Yeah, no, I just drove my daughter to a school this morning. It was 30-minute drive from here, and I'm still well inside city limit, like well inside limits. Yeah, it's not a joke. The city the size of these, Houston, Jacksonville, they're very large places. LA, New York, they're very, very big. And to see the amount, not just the amount of people, but the amount of companies that can work inside of a space that large is insane. Like, you think Georgia has a lot of companies working inside of it. Houston, for one city, probably has 5 or 6 working inside of it, just like Jacksonville does.
Probably more, honestly, because there's new promotions
Maybe
popping up
more,
all
yeah.
over the place. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about getting on the table. What was the motivation?
Wait.
Go ahead.
Before we get to the getting on the table, you said earlier that you were training in the ring, so you were doing your in-ring, you were working hard cam, you were working production, all of that before you got to the table. In your come up part, where you were paying your dues and getting your work up and learning all the different stations, what was the hardest piece for you to pick up? What was the thing that you really just struggled with?
There's a funny story about that, because so Ryan, I'm gonna put over Ryan Davidson because he's an incredible talent and somebody I like to call my big brother in the business. So to this day, I tell all my students this story because it's so true. I don't do heights, not because I'm afraid of being high up, because I'm afraid of falling.
Yep.
I despise the feeling of falling, because then what if I land on my neck? What if I land on something that's gonna break? I can't do that. The sensation of falling, can't do it. So whenever I tell students like the story that I'm about to share with you guys, I tell them it's like, I can't do flip bumps, or I can't do like handstand bumps or stuff. It's not that I can't, it's that I won't. And I accept that. That's why I will never be a wrestler, because I'm just scared. And I know that I am. So when I was training, obviously I had to learn how to do handstand bumps and flip bumps. Body just would not register how to do it, because in my brain I'm just scared that I'm gonna fall and break my neck. I can't.
It was
get
rope
over
bumps
that.
for me. 100%
Yeah.
feel you, homie.
And I won't do it because I'm scared, and I fully admit that. Every trainer knows that it's scary for me. I just don't want to fall and hurt myself. So one day we were learning how to do the international spot, which for those of you guys that don't know, the international is the shoulder tackle, run to the ropes, jump over, and then leapfrog, and then you go back under the ropes and all that stuff, and then you end up with a hip toss. You can modify that however you want, but for any wrestler
But it is a
who knows
solid
anything,
base.
is the international. That's what it's called. You can go to Japan and not even speak the same language until the international. They're like, okay, and then they know exactly what to do. So we were doing the international, we were practicing it, and the rule of thumb is if you can do the international perfectly, you can advance to intermediate classes. And so the one class that I had with Ryan Davidson was we were doing the international. I was like, hey, I haven't done flip bumps because I'm still getting funky thoughts. It's like I don't think I can do this. Like, I think you can. Let's just run it. And I was like, okay. So we run the whole spot, everything, and we get to the hip toss part, and he has me base, hook the arm, and then I jump. And then that's where we stopped. I didn't flip. We just jumped. It's like, all right, cool. How'd that feel? I was like, that felt fine. Cool. Let's do it again. We do it a second time. It's like, all right, cool. How'd that feel? I was like, pretty good. It's like, all right, we're going to do it one more time. He does it. And this time, as soon as I hook and I base, he's just like, watch it. I'm like, what?
Yep.
And he just pushes me, grabs me, and flips me over. And I just remember taking the flat bump, and then I just stare up at the lights because we were in the main ring. And he just looks over me. He's like, how'd that feel? I'm like, I want to do that again. So we ran it again. I did it perfectly fine. But then that's when I realized I can do a flip bump as long as I have assistance. If you ask me to do a flip bump myself, I'm still in that funky brain that I was like, I don't want to hurt myself and everything. So that's to this day still my biggest thing. And now that I'm about to start getting back into in-ring training and everything just for cardio and, getting in shape again and everything, I'm going to do everything up until that point, and I'm just going to repeat basics because I enjoy the rolls. I enjoy the cardio drills. All that stuff is
The rolls,
much fun.
the sit-outs, the standard move. Yeah.
So much fun. But when it gets to the point where we get to the international, I'm like, cool, I'm going to restart with all the new students because then, I'm doing this for cardio and just to, do something fun that with the monotony of going to the gym doesn't get to me. But that's my biggest challenge to this day on my come up. I can't do
You're going to be a MatWorks master.
Absolutely. Bret Hart, I'm coming for you.
Who needs flip bumps when you've got a technical guru? I'm just saying. Have you seen Zack Sabre Jr. wrestle?
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah. I feel you on that heights thing. It was always the rope bumps for me. We've talked about this several times between Paige and I, but it's something about it, man. And accepting that that's a fear factor for you is very important to keep other people safe.
Mm-hmm. That's rule number one. You got to keep people trust you with their bodies. You got to keep them safe, no matter what.
John, I want to pivot back around to where I was going a few minutes ago when you decided to make that move to the table. Going through the production side of the equation. Well, let me back up for a minute before we go there. This is again, I get going, ADD will kick in. When you're going through your production side of the equation, what did a typical day look like for you? A typical show day. We'll just say that.
Show days where the fruits of my labor came to be, but everything before then, that was when I know I'm not, I don't want to say that I'm not old, but I was also not as young as I once was. Back in my full-time production, everything, I stayed up until constantly every day till like 3-4 in the morning, just pulling clips, watching wrestling. I'm like, oh, I can use this for a video package, stuff like that. So on a show day, typical week, I'll be pulling clips from YouTube. I'll be, storyboarding something else. I'm like, oh, this match could use a video package. What if we try doing this new thing? How do I film it? How do I learn it? Because everything I do is self-taught. I've never taken a class on how to edit, how to do After Effects, how to do any of that stuff. So I was like, I just want to learn. I fully admit now, like I tell everybody, I'm not the best, but I can get you something serviceable. If you want quality, go to this person, and pay their fee because they're creators. They need to make a living out of all this stuff. But if you want something serviceable, when I have time, I'll make it to you. I'll make it for you for free. Unless you want something like intricate. So I was like, oh, I can't do that. Go to this person, pay their fee, do their thing. But I constantly sit up till 3-4 in the morning practicing like how to do separate effects, teaching myself, watching YouTube, like how do I do this? How do I do this? Like I had an idea. I'm like, is this possible in Premiere Pro? And then I just started looking stuff up. So the week before the show, always constantly making Tron, seeing if a match could use a video package. I could make moving match card graphics because I'm a humongous mark for the like '04 style of match cards, with like Shawn Michaels going like that, and then that.
Mhm.
It's such good stuff. So it's like I want to learn how to make all that stuff. So it was just constantly on my computer. How can I edit this stuff together and put it together, and then sending it to Kevin? Kevin giving me a lot of feedback, and I praise him for how patient he was with me at first, because I bother that man like nobody's business. And he has taught me so much about how to become a better producer and just to have an eye for television. So now everything he's taught me, I teach my students now. I'm like, hey, your entrance can't be over this time. Think about the TV style, like the side of it, the presentation. This is why I can't just do highlights for your Tron, et cetera, et cetera. So everything he's taught me, I continue to pass it down to the next generation, so on and so forth. To now, where basically I had this revelation like a year ago. I was like, I'm no longer the rookie, and it feels weird that people are now calling me coach. I'm like, holy crap, I am. It's awesome, but also weird because
It's finally happened.
Yeah, it's jarring.
It's it's one of those moments though. That's where reality is this. That you get these guys that are calling you coach. That's the moment where you've made it. If you ever was questioning
it's awesome.
Found his
yourself,
capital A.
yeah, we're talking to Rico Gonzalez. He's a Georgia guy. Who tell he's adulting with a capital A versus a lowercase a. That is 100% correct. That is a capital A moment because
You found your capital A.
if you were ever questioning yourself, and if you were ever questioning whether or not anything that you was doing in the business was, if it meant anything, that's the moment that it means more than even because now you're a direct influence on students coming through. And you say one producer, editor to another who is not taking a class at all and just wings it just like you do. What was your first editing software? I have to know. What did you use?
I went right into Premiere Pro because if I was gonna do stuff, I wanted to do quality.
Okay.
So I had no problem paying for whatever I needed to. The fun part is that I started with the regular account that's like $50 a month for the entire cloud and everything. And then like I want to say like a year or two ago, my sister was like, "Hey, I work at a school and they get like a school package. So if you want to, use my email and do the teacher package, I'll let you use it because I'm not going to use it." I was like, bet. So now I pay like $25 or $25 a month for Adobe, the whole cloud. I was like, my secret, but now it's out on the internet. So
software,
there you go.
Yep, I'm gonna clip it and I'm just gonna throw it out there just because you said no. Really, I'm not.
Adobe, don't sue me.
I thought that was funny because as you were going through that, I was like, oh, yep, nope, he's talking to me right now. I use OBS and fucking OpenShot to do my shit and make it happen. But
hey, as long as you're making it happen, that's what matters. Because if you have the money behind the operation, obviously you can get quality at any moment. But it's about the heart of the production. That's where it matters. So people can feel the heart. They can see the money, but they can feel the heart.
absolutely, and it's part like our platform is this. Like we're not here for fame or fortune or any of that bullshit that comes along with it. We're here genuinely because it's a passion. And sitting down and being able to talk to talents all over the world in some form or fashion, it's fun. At the end of the day, it's fun. Wrestling is fun, and this is. We were talking before we went on the air. In a world that has a lot of negativity, I would rather focus on the positive and focus on what's fun. This is fun to us. And being able to meet and connect with different people. It's what wrestling brings people together. That's what we say it on the channel all the time.
Exactly.
So when you now I'll get into when you got on the table and at what point did you decide that was something that you wanted to do, and was it something that you were nervous about at all once you got the nod to make that move?
So funny enough, my start in commentary was because when I was learning production and editing and all that stuff, I had a bright idea one day that I posted to Reddit. The year was 2017, and I posted to Reddit, "Hey guys, since we have the game 2018, what if we had a created wrestlers league where you guys bring your characters, you role play as your characters, and we just put them out there and do a show. People love the
He had
idea.
an
They're like,
EFED.
I didn't know that's what they were called. So I was like, yeah, what if we did this, and we'll do that, and people were like, yeah, no, this sounds great. And so I
He
took
had
the
a
time.
capture EFED. Woo!
I took
One
the
of
time.
us.
I took the time to basically like create all the characters from the PS4 version onto Xbox because we didn't have the community creations back then. And so I brought everybody to life on my Xbox version, and I just started an EFED without knowing what it was. And then after like 5 weeks, it took off like crazy. And that was basically my job for 5 years. I did a wrestling called CWL, which was Created Wrestlers League. And unfortunately, it shut doors, I want to say a year and a half ago for reasons that are, I'm going to say, out of my control.
EFED
But
stuff, yeah.
That's the best way to put it. EFED stuff. We'll go with that.
EFED stuff,
So-
yeah. We 100% understand. Yeah.
I fully loved what I did there. To this day, I'll probably start another EFED if I could just do it by myself. But then I have to think of characters, I have to think of more stories, and all the work that went into it. Shouts out to my former production team because they put up with so much and they helped me with so much. And to this day, I will put our product up against anybody else's as far as EFEDs go. And I guarantee you that we're better than some episodes of the bad episodes of Raw or whatever. We still put out better than anything WWE was putting out at the time. So it connected me with a lot of people who I'm still friends with to this day, some of them. And after a while, I was like, this show needs commentary. But I was still kind of like not out of my shell quite yet. And I didn't know what streaming fully was at the time. So I started learning how to be a content creator. And eventually that led me to more resources of, just everything kind of like piling on at the same time. And I was like, this is fun. I enjoy entertaining and I enjoy being the voice of a show. And so after much self-reluctance, because I was, I have that little cloud in my head. I was like, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. I was like, I'm just going to do commentary, dude. Like, screw it. Let's just do it. We'll get better as we go. And then I got comfortable with it. I got decent at it. And then I asked for an opportunity to do row commentary for whatever show they needed, like any extra shows that we did. And then there was one show after 2.5 years of doing CWL called Rise to Wrestling Royalty, where it was basically like King of the Ring, 16 people, one winner, and they get like a ring at the end of it. And it was a one-day event that we had to show. I think it was during the pandemic. And that's when I was like, I want to do this show because the other commentators were not available. And so Kevin was like, all right, let's give you a shot. Let's see how it goes. And I had fun, but listening to it back, I'm like, you suck. Like, you had no idea what you were doing. It was all like pretty jarring. Just it was serviceable, but it wasn't the quality that you'd expect from a televised show. And then because again, I was self-taught. Nobody had given me direction about any of this stuff or
You
whatever.
were working indie feel on an EFED, and that was exactly what we expected to be.
Exactly. So Kevin told me I did fine. He gave me some good notes. And as we were reopening back up from COVID, obviously, limited spaces and everything, that was when one of our commentators wasn't coming back for our big opening and everything. So that's when I saw my opportunity. And so I told Bookers, like, hey, I've been doing commentary for this thing, practicing, trying to get better and everything. How would you feel about giving me an opportunity for commentary? And he looks me up and down because I have, to this day, I still kind of like, I'm intimidated by Booker, even though I'm trying to get more comfortable just talking to him, man to man and everything. And he just looks me up and down. He's like, lose 10 pounds. And I was like, okay, sure. If that's what's keeping me from my next goal, let's do it. So for the next month, I lost 10 pounds. I come back to him. And then I'm like, all right, sir, I lost 10 pounds. What's next? And he looks at me again. Lose 10 more pounds. I was like, okay, sure. If that's what it's going to take for me to get it,
If that's what it is.
So I lost 10 more pounds. And that's when I go back to Book. I was like, hey, Book, I lost 10 more pounds. What else do you need from me? And it's like, all right, kid, Summer of Champions. You're on. And I was like, holy shit. Summer of Champions is basically our WrestleMania. So I was like, you're letting me debut as a commentator at Summer of Champions. That is insane. And what was even crazier is that we were live, which we don't normally do. So my first show, I got to be live for Summer of Champions alongside Brad Gilmore. And I listen to that once in a while. And I'm like, okay, that was a little bit better for like TV and everything. And to this day, the ending of the main event is one of my favorite calls that I've ever done of all time. And I didn't practice it. It just came to me in the moment and it was amazing. I will put it up there with like the JR and Michael Cole calls, like people just remember. Like whenever Sami won the tag titles, like Cole was like, "Bloodline be damned." And I was like, that is classic. I love that. So that's in my head, me blowing myself up and putting myself over and everything. That's where I would put my call for Summer Champions. I haven't quite gotten an amazing call like that quite yet, but I at least got the experience. And now I had somebody with Brad Gilmore who has taught me a lot on how to be better and basically learn how a commentary table works. And now here we are 3 years later. And now I'm comfortable going to places being like, yes, I'm a commentator. I know the TV style. I still have a lot to improve on because everybody can always improve.
Facts.
But I'm able to help people see things differently and hear things differently. Again, especially I'm always going to talk about the students at Row because they see me constantly, and we have a group chat all together where I'm like, hey, I saw this. I thought about the lesson behind this. Here's how I see it from a commentator standpoint. Here's how I see it from a TV production standpoint. Here's how I see it from a wrestling standpoint. And I'm going to give you all three to help you guys get better just from this. And it's been really cool just, putting all of that together and everything.
Well, I could see why you would be a little intimidated by Booker T, man. He's 5-time WCW champion.
That's a two-time Hall of Famer too. Like,
yeah, and multi-time World's Tag Team Champion. I mean, come on now. I could feel like, can I? Is it okay? Don't slap me.
Yeah, it's more because like I respect him too much to want to let him down or let him down in any kind of capacity. Even though it's going to maybe not letting him down, but like there's going to be moments where he's not going to agree with what I did or what I said as far as wrestling goes. But at least it's a learning experience. To this day, I don't feel like I've ever pissed him off. Maybe, I'm not sure. But it's a learning experience, and I just don't want to mess up and be like, oh, I just screwed it up.
Well, that's just it. Like you.
How long had you?
Go ahead, John.
How long had you been in production before you went to the table? A couple of years?
Like 3-4 years or so. And funny enough, I think to that day he still didn't know my name. Because I never approached him about anything. I was just a student in the background.
Well, because important people talk to important people, and until you make a name for yourself and carve your niche, you're not important people yet. So I could kind of get that. One of the things you maybe miss is, in the time that you were hounding him about becoming a commentator, you did the two things he asked you to do: lose the 10. So you sacrificed. You showed effort. You showed know-how. Mm-hmm. The other thing that you maybe didn't put into that equation when you're like, I don't know why he let me do this. Dude, 3 years of knowledge base about the roster is exactly what the table needs. People don't realize how much knowledge has to be on the table to make the calls so well and to know the history and know the ins and outs and know the stories. Like, there's a lot that goes into being on the table that is realistically could be harder for some of the guys that have done it than all of the physical work in the ring ever was.
And here's the funny thing about you saying that. After 2 shows together, Brad Gilmore actually dubbed me the historian because after 2 meetings that we had, pre-production or pre-show meetings where we talk about talents and everything, I try not to speak up too much because, again, I don't want to say something stupid in front of Booker.
But when you know.
And I was like, well, 3 months ago or 3 years ago, this happened. So, we could talk about that in commentary. And Booker's like, did that happen 3 years ago? Damn. Yeah, use that. I was like, okay. And then, I came up with like all these random facts of like, this person has been champion this many times. This is how many days this person has been champion. And again, that came from all the production stuff that I always did. And they were just like, this kid knows his shit. Holy crap. And now they call me the historian. And at first I didn't like it because I'm like, I don't think a character should be in the commentary table. Like literally on my first day.
No.
Hold on.
I was like,
No.
it's not me.
Hold on. They're calling you the historian because
Yeah.
they cannot call you the professor. And let's be
Fair.
fair, Mike Tenay was one of the best, as far as if I didn't know who was in the ring and Tenay was on the call, I knew who was in the ring by the time Tenay got off the call.
Yeah.
So I look at that as a seriously high compliment. If you look at it from that perspective, and that's when you say historian, and that's how they've introduced you on the shows. You got the historian, so it's high praise. And if
at first I didn't like it.
That is an honorific title, sir.
After a while, I ended up liking it, but at first I was like, I don't know, no. But now I've come around to it, and I was like, I like it.
Well, we talked earlier about how everybody's job in the business is important. And while we're talking about commentary, the guys in the ring, they're physically, painting the picture. The guys on the table are the ones who are verbally painting that same picture, and that in itself is critical. It is,
You're the storyteller. The table is where the story comes from.
So I think it's obviously a huge benefit for your production experience with reality of wrestling for that move to be made. And I was gonna ask, well, I guess I can't ask this because it does kind of jive. At what point did you get comfortable on the table? Because I would imagine when you walked out there that first
Are you
night,
yet?
I like to think so. And this is only me. I'm only speaking for myself, not my partners and everything. I think after 3 months, so it was August, so September, October. Yeah, so November 2009 or 2020 or 2021 maybe was when I finally got comfortable, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling it. I get the process now because Brad gave me something that I like to call the Bible, and I'm not going to share what that is, but he basically gave me this document that again I like to call the Bible, and I was like, I read through it, and I was like, this tells me what each person does. So basically,
I know what that book is.
Yeah. So the ring has the face and the heel, and that's their roles. That's the roles that they're playing. Someone's going under, someone's going over, and you have to tell the story. That is, again, that's their roles, and that's the biggest thing. The commentators also have roles, and I didn't know about that beforehand. So I was like, oh, okay, that helps me a lot more. So that's when I learned play-by-play is the driver. They're the ones that are in control of the whole show. They are the hosts, basically. That's how I have to think about it. Color is the personality of the table. So they are the ones that, add flavor to it. They don't really have to know what's going on, but they're there to be like not the antagonist, but kind of just, give a little bit of life to the table. And that's who you argue with. And then the third person, if there is a third person, because we do a 3-person booth, is the analyst, which is the one that gives the numbers, the stats, all that stuff. And that was my role. So I was like, okay, this makes a lot more sense now. And I started understanding it a lot more. And I knew what Brad was doing. I knew at the time what Ryan and Abel were doing when they were the commentators. But then we brought in Brittany Outland, and that helped even more because she was the color. And then I was still the analyst. So I was like, this is perfect. So we figured it all out, and we did amazing work. And we still continue to do amazing work. And that's when I started getting comfortable. But then over the last year, I actually just had this revelation like 2 weeks ago. I got too comfortable to where I got stagnant. And I didn't like that. So as of that was July. So August 2023, they moved me to the play-by-play role. That way Brad could be the color, and then Brittany could be kind of like the analyst / color, kind of like in between and everything. And so ever since then, I've been ever since October, actually, because we didn't have an August show. I've been play-by-play, and that's when I had to relearn my entire role. And I feel like that's kind of where I lost my way a little bit, maybe got a little too comfortable. I didn't know how to be the host properly. And as luck would have it, that was the day that we had Charlie Dempsey and Axiom from NXT come on down. And I was like, I did such a horrible job and I hate it. But I listened back to it, I was like, okay, I think I did okay. But I basically hit a ceiling and I was like, I don't know how to get past this. And again, as luck would have it, the reason I had this revelation 2 weeks ago was because Vic Joseph was actually here at Reality of Wrestling, and I didn't know he was going to be there. And all I'm going to say is that he tore me a new one, and I am so appreciative that he did, because now I have a coach that's helping me with commentary. And I'm so grateful for that because he's giving me so much knowledge that now we have a show this Saturday, actually, and I'm putting all of his teachings into effect, and I'm really excited to continue to grow further. And it's amazing. I'm really really looking forward to the show.
Well, sometimes you gotta be brought to reality a little bit, you know. Like I
Yep.
say, the reality of wrestling. It's in the name. I
Yep.
think that is, constructive criticism is something that sometimes people have a hard time coping with, right? Because nobody likes to be
Mhm.
told that they're doing something wrong. But what again, something that I dig your outlook on it is it needed to happen because now I know where I can improve my game on.
Mhm.
And kind of the crucial piece for you, I think, is keeping it all fresh. Making sure that you don't hit that glass ceiling again. So, like, when the time is right, move over into the color roll, and then that way you're constantly changing it up a little bit for yourself, but
Mhm.
you're also learning the different roles as you're going. You're constantly learning, I guess, is where I'm going with it, and that is professional wrestling. It
Mhm.
doesn't ever stop. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, and that's honestly just what I love. That from the way I explain it to my girlfriend is like it's a story that never ends, both in front of the screen and behind the scenes. So, uh, pro wrestling is the best art form in the world, and I fully believe that.
John, you're up.
You just said wrestling is the story that doesn't end, and it really can't. It has to be an ongoing thing. We've got every week we're doing a show, every 2 weeks we're doing a show, every once a month we're doing a show. There's always a show coming. So the story
Mhm.
has to be able to unfold into those coming days and weeks and months. And it has to continue on because the fans are going to want to know, what's the next big thing the next time we see you. There's always
Mhm.
got to be a big story and a little story and a minor story. And I said earlier, a lot of people don't realize, and when we talked to Miss Taylor, a lot of people don't realize how important just someone on the microphone is. A ring announcer. Without the ring announcer, the fans in house don't know who's coming down the ramp. Maybe they're a first time fan. Maybe they've just bought their ticket. They've come to the first live show. They've just seen a clip on YouTube. They don't know what's going on. They have no idea what's up. Your job is to flesh that story out on the table. And
Mhm.
as a commentator, sometimes that isn't easy. You have a new guy that you borrowed from another roster come through and get booked on a match. There's no history there. You're flying in the dark. You don't know what to do about it. It takes a few times of those experiences to get comfortable. And I wonder, like, you said you found your comfort 3 months in. Was that because you had already made some pretty major mistakes and realized that you weren't fired, so it was okay to try again?
I think so. I think it was more so of like, is what I'm saying enough? Am I doing too much? Am I doing too little?
The
Um,
reassurances.
yeah, and the episode started coming out, I heard myself, and I'm like, okay, if I every episode that comes out, I watch it minimum 3 times. One, to judge myself. One, to get feedback for the students that want feedback if they reach out to me. And third, I watch it as a fan. So when I watch it the third time, I'm like, would I watch the show if I wasn't the one on it? Like, would I just watch this product because it's enjoyable? And that's when I really started like piecing apart my own work, and I'm like, this worked,
Oh,
this
that
could have
third
been
one
cut short.
terrifies me.
It's just
The
it's
first
piecing it
two, I'm
apart.
on board.
Yeah.
I'll watch it the first time to do production. I'll watch it the second time to give all the feedback on the planet. That third time is the one that's gonna tear me apart.
That's something I actually learned from streaming too, like, and content creation as a whole. The biggest advice that I hear from streamers all the time talk about is like, if you were to watch yourself, like if that wasn't you, would you watch the show? Is it entertaining to you? And if it is, then that's good, because then that means you're creating the content that you want to see.
Being honest about
And
that question is probably the most difficult thing about being an on-air personality, being an entertainer
absolutely.
at all. And to be free enough to analyze yourself honestly about that is probably the struggle. Would you say there's any other part of it that could be harder than that?
Uh, maybe just having the natural persona for it too. Like, I mean, that's hard to measure, because you don't. Not everybody can be a commentator. Not everybody can be a wrestler. Not everybody can be an entertainer. In the entire entertainment industry, a lot of people are like, I want to be an actor, but then I can't,
The
cry on cue or
industry
something like
still
that.
needs the
Yeah.
guy carrying the boom mic. Without the boom
Yeah.
mic, nobody hears what the actor's saying. Without the camera
Yeah.
guy, nobody sees the picture. All of those jobs are important. It's just, where do you fit in the scale of it? And it's not even a hierarchy. It's just, there are certain people that are good at certain things. And recognizing what you're good at and where you fit is part of that discovery of what you should be doing in the entertainment industry.
Facts.
And that's honestly why I enjoy my role as commentator, because at first, like my first year, I always told everybody I think this is my calling, because A, I love talking about wrestling, B, I love hyping up my friends, and C, commentary basically does that. I get to talk wrestling and I get to hype up my friends. So even though I in character, like, in the part of the show or everything, I was like, oh, Gino Medina is a dastardly heel, whatever. In my heart, I'm like, I'm putting your heel persona over, and I love this. The fact that I get to pretend that I hate you, but in my heart, I'm like, you're doing such a good job, dude. Hell yeah. I
And
love
this is what we're here
Yeah.
for, right there, sir. That part. We love that part.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I just love talking about my friends and hyping them up. And the fact that I get to do it with wrestlers, because I do consider them family, it's just tremendous. Because now the wave of talent now is people that started training after I became commentator. So I'm not as close to them as I was with the previous class, but I still get to see their growth, and I get to see, when the things start clicking and everything. And this is something I caught myself doing at a student show one day, and that's when I was like, "Oh, I can't do this." I stopped talking on commentary because I was taking mental notes. I'm like, "Oh, he's out of place. The footwork's not there. This is doing wrong." Like, I'm trying to take notes to give them feedback, but it stopped me from talking. I was like, "Oh no, I'm doing commentary. I can't pay attention to that right now. I need to like actually put a voice to this and stuff." So that was that was one of the hurdles I just had to jump over like a few months ago, when I was like, I'm judging or not judging, like I'm critiquing students live as if I'm not supposed to be doing a job myself. And I was like, I need to stop doing that.
So, with everything that has been going on within reality of wrestling, I know that that's probably your primary. With Houston being such a big market, I know that Emily is an example, and I know that we reference back to her, but she's who we know from ROW, or ROW. Are there other promotions out there that you're doing some things for, working with, or are you just strictly, hey, this is reality of wrestling, this is where my focus is? What's that look like to you?
I'm strictly reality of wrestling for one reason only. Um, I have a lot of knowledge to give to people that want to listen, but it's hard to find people that want to listen, especially since I technically don't carry a name. Like, I'm not Booker T, I'm not Charlie Haas, I'm not Shelton Benjamin. I'm not the people that are on the Texas scene that teach people, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I also know that what we do at Row is incredibly unique, because everywhere you go, mostly everywhere you go, I shouldn't lump everybody in, but mostly everywhere you go, they're going to do indie style. And I'm not tarnishing anybody whatsoever. Everybody has their own opinion. Everybody has their own, flavor of ice cream that they like as far as wrestling goes. I don't like indie style. I really don't, because I don't feel it tells a story. I feel it's more, look what flashy thing I'm doing here. I'm gonna do 7,000 flips, and then kind of just do something, and it looks cool, it's amazing athleticism. Props to you, dude, for being able to do something that I could never dream of doing. But I like my wrestling style to be TV style, to build to something. Everything has a purpose, right? So what I see a lot of people do is just like, I'm gonna do indie wrestling where I'm gonna focus on working the crowd rather than working the camera. And in my brain, you can please the 200 people that paid a ticket, or you can please the thousands watching in the camera, which is then going to get you more exposure further out from everywhere. So nobody really kind of does that much. They don't do TV style, so to speak. So when I tried to expand my horizons and go to other places, I did what I usually do. I did the TV style and everything. And I remember working with somebody, and I was like, "Hey, are you play by play or color?" They're like, "Oh, I'm play by play." I was like, "Okay, cool. So then I'll be color." And because it's your promotion, I'm gonna just do what's I got here. Let's just have fun. And then as we were going through the show, I realized that what they were doing was color, and I was like, "You're not doing play by play, dude. You told me you were doing play by play. What's happening?" And so after like the third match, my brain just switched and I took over because it was basically like driving with no steering wheel. I was like, we're just kind of like on our own little islands here, dude. We're not like meshing well and everything. And as soon as I took over, I gave us a little bit more room to like breathe because I attached the steering wheel on a car that didn't have one. I was like, all right, now we're driving. Let's go. And I feel like that was the experience that I was like, I don't think people really understand what TV style is because that's not what they were taught or what they understand, and that's okay. But I was like, I think I'm just gonna focus on Raw, unless I get to go to like Memphis Wrestling, like a championship wrestling from Memphis, I think is what it's called, or Hollywood Wrestling and stuff like that, which is David Marquez's companies, because he also does TV style. And so I was like, this is gonna be where I stay because I don't want to pick up bad habits that I bring back here and then I regress, because that's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to regress. I can hit a ceiling because then I recognize it and then I can get above it. But I don't want to. I want to do everything in my power to not regress ever, because then that's gonna set me back even further.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that because, like, we Georgia was represented at the Last Stand Rumble. They brought in Skrilla and Naja and a couple other people from Memphis as well. And we are very friendly with Skrilla and with Naja. They've both been on the show. Skrilla's done some live streams with us. You say TV style, and I'm gonna quote one of them. I'm not gonna say who it is. I was told, because one of the first things I did was I said, got back in touch with me, and I asked them how the experience was. When I found out they were going, all I said was maximize your minutes. Whatever they give you, maximize them. Utilize them to your biggest potential. I guess they had a private training session or a training session with Booker T. One of them got their ass chewed for wrestling an indie style. And he learned a very valuable lesson. And that was, man, I'm not wrestling to any camera. That which was the lesson. I believe Booker T was like, that's some indie bullshit. Don't do that. And he taught him, right? So it's valuable lessons that you get taught. And John and I both, we like wrestling towards your camera as well. Most of the indies that we have come across that make our programming on a monthly basis, they train their guys the same way, and that is to play to the camera versus playing to the people. And I can understand.
You could do both, but the camera's got to be the focus, and the fans have to see it.
Yeah.
And that right there is whenever Booker says, got to pay attention to the little things, that's exactly what he's talking about. And a lot of people don't realize that because they're like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what does it mean, do the little things? And what you just said is one of the little things that you always have to think about. It doesn't mean ignore the crowd. Play up to the crowd, but do it for the camera.
But do it for the camera in front of the lens, because that's the thing that's going to get on the highlight reel or the production reel or the TV rotation. Like, that's the thing that's going to get seen by more than just the people that were in your building. Yes, the people in your building are mad important. They're the ones that keep the lights on and show up every week. But those guys out there, the ones that'll see the clips, that'll see the
Mhm.
footage, that'll see the viral video, those are the ones that are going to share your product around the world.
Yep. And a
Exactly.
lot of people don't realize that.
Well, yeah, it's how I say we've made a lot of friends, and a lot of people that we've made friends with are overseas because they're not really being seen here in the States. And of course, our audience is mainly and predominantly, U.S. based. And that's a piece of it. You get to put other people's product out there, and in this case, the talent get to put themselves out there, and you as well. I can admire the fact that you're hanging with RC or ROW. Excuse me, I almost said Riot City, John. It just almost happened. Um,
It's because it's
but
that
I
important.
want to circle back around to something you said a minute ago, and not to pump your head up or blow smoke up your ass or any of that. You're talking about how giving feedback or maybe not being in that criteria of upper echelons to give feedback. I call bullshit to that, and here's why. You have, at this point, probably 5 years of production experience, not only from a camera looking through the lens, but also other aspects of it. You have the eye of the commentator who, yet, let's be realistic, your job is to get them over, get the match over, and get the story over. Like, you might not be physically in the ring, but dare I
The
say that,
wrestlers are the actors and the commentators are the narrators, and they are mad important to getting the story over.
dare I say, you chumble all that experience from the different little positions throughout the business that you've had. Yeah, I think that would probably be somebody that I'd come up to and say, "Hey, what did you think?" And of course, everybody's going to
Well,
go.
but
Go ahead, John.
that's the difference between someone who thinks they know what they're doing and someone who's actually there to learn. And I'm sure that you've recognized the difference in your years at the table and your years at ringside, your years working in the ring. The guys that show up and are like, "Hey, what did you think?" Man, think about it. Who else in the company sees more matches than the guy sitting on the table? No one. The camera guy is the only guy out there, period, that sees more wrestling than the commentators. They're it. And the only reason they see more is because they're on the floor right next to the ring, and you might not always see all the angles. But outside of that, you've seen every match that's been on the card, every show you've been there. Nobody sees more wrestling than you.
It's a perfect role for me.
I
Right.
know.
And that's what makes you valuable for feedback. And for a guy in the locker room, being a guy that used to be in the locker room, if you discount the amount of knowledge that the table has, you don't understand the business. Go back to basics and relearn.
That's why real talk. Like I'm about to put the hell out of somebody over somebody right now. But Danny Limelight is somebody who I will tremendously put over because after the I think like second show that we had together, he actually came up to me and was like, "Hey, what'd you think of my match?" And I was like, nobody that we've brought out from out of state has ever like pulled me aside and asked me that. I was like, holy crap. And so I got to give him a little feedback and everything. We talked and I got to know him a lot better and everything. And ever since then, we've built up this rapport where behind the scenes, I like to think we're pretty good, business friends and everything. I'll always put him over and everything because he legitimately is really good. And but on screen, I'm like, this dude sucks.
Oh man.
He doesn't suck. Like no, I trash him for being from New York. That is literally the only reason I trash him. Especially now that he's our Texas champion, he rebranded the belt as the Empire State Championship, and me and him are going at it on
Oh,
Twitter over and over and over again. I was like,
the
bro, don't do
gimmick
that to the
war is
championship.
probably fire.
Absolutely not. It's
Li-
great. I love it. And he messaged me all the time and is like, your takes suck, and I'm like, bro, just no. This is the Texas Championship. Until you bring out a new belt where the medal says Empire State Championship, that is the Texas Championship. And he's like, shut up, bozo. And I was like, all right.
Well, we went to Bozo there.
Yeah.
Limelight's somebody that we've watched across our independent platform. Actually, didn't we watch something from him the other night, John?
Not that long ago, yeah. I think we've
Yeah.
we've seen him on our screen recently for sure.
Carl Fredericks.
Amazing
He
talent.
was taking on Carl Fredericks. It was the match that we saw him in. It was in Memphis, actually.
Nice.
From the Memphis territory. I go back to Limelight's such a guy that you love him, but you want to hate him, or you hate him but you want to love him, right? When we were talking to Emily, there was a viral clip that went out, and he just shut down the backstage correspondent like within 3 seconds. It was vicious, it was brutal, and I loved it. I couldn't help it. I think that Danny Limelight's one of those guys that it's not a matter of if for him, it's a matter of when. And he's probably gonna hit superstar status on a major roster much sooner rather than later. Which
I agree.
when you talk about some of the other guys in ROW, who are some of your favorites to call when you're on the table? Like you know that this match is coming, man. Like this is gonna be fire. Who are some of those talents?
Are we talking about current roster or throughout my entire tenure?
All time.
Your tenure, yeah.
Tenure.
What have been some of your like, holy shit, this is really happening moments?
Well, first on that list has to be the boss, Booker T. I'm never gonna forget this. My 1-year anniversary show behind the table, he was on the card. So on my 1-year anniversary, I got to call a Booker T match, and I was like, oh my god, like the guy, the second ever match I watched from WWE that made me a fan, he's here, and I'm calling his match. I saw him and RVD defend the World Tag Team Championship at WrestleMania 20 one day, and now I'm here calling his match, a tag team match. I'm like, that was probably the biggest moment so far for me. And to this day, I still can't believe that that's happened. Me and my best friend, who we grew up watching wrestling, he doesn't watch anymore, but I keep him updated with stuff because obviously he knows how much I'm into it and everything. I told him, like, dude, I called a Booker T match, and he's just like, wait, what? And I told him, everything that led up to it, and I shared the video with him. It's like, dude, like, we were jumping on trampolines watching this stuff, and now you're calling like, the Legends matches. I'm like, I know, like, this is insane.
Mind blown.
So Booker is probably up there. This is another fun one. My first ever match, official match as a commentator for Reality of Wrestling, was Charlie Haas. That match was not supposed to happen. A little peek behind the curtain. It was supposed to be Zach Mason versus, I think, Max Castellanos at the time. And I think Max couldn't make the show for one reason or another. I think there was like some travel issues that happened. And so Zach didn't have a match. And Charlie Haas just happened to be there. And we're like, we're going to use you as a segment, but did you want to do a match? And so they worked it all out and everything, card subject to change. And so since it was Summer of Champions, again, it was a WrestleMania. So we was like, it's going to be a big deal. And so the first ever match I officially ever called for Raw is Charlie Haas versus Zach Mason. And that is still crazy to me. So Boogeyman's another one. That was a really fun one. And that's just like going from WWE people, like, people that I watched growing up and stuff. But from our talent, it doesn't get bigger or better, in my opinion, than who I like to call the big four for me. Brian Keith, Rex Andrews, Ryan Davidson, and Gino Medina. Those were the four that I basically grew up watching through Raw. As I got my feet wet into the industry, and there were like four people that I really looked up to because they were just incredible talents. And the fact that I've been able to cross all four off my list as commentator is amazing. But I mean, the talent pool just keeps going and going and going because, I think Raw has the deepest talent pool that we've ever had, like over the last 2 years or so. And it just keeps getting bigger and better, which I think is just insane. And now every month we have NXT people coming down. So it's like these people that I literally watch on TV. I'm just like, I'm getting to call your matches. This is crazy to me. Like, how is this possible? How did I get into this place to begin with? And when you like put it together, it's like, well, you worked for it and everything. And I understand that, but that little
it's the revelation
kid,
of, no, this is actually reality right now. We completely understand that.
I mean, it's like
our position, like.
It's like a kid at Christmas waking up every morning and it's Christmas Day, like it's the little bitty things, but in the process of the little bitty things, like it's growth. It's your growth. It's every item and every person and every match that you get through is more experience. It's more, and again, we say wrestling is the one thing that constantly goes, and you never can not learn unless you're just, lazy. I don't know how else to
Choosing
put it.
not to. You could
Yeah,
choose not to.
facts. More modern stuff. Who are some of the ones that you're watching now outside of Sami Zayn? We'll shift to WWE or AEW. Before we do that, the one thing, this is where I was going to go earlier before we had a snafu. Booker T. He's well connected, and we were talking about earlier how he produces stars. I mean, that's just what it is. There's no getting around it. There's no denying it. He has ties, obviously, with NXT and the WWE still. Got ties with AEW, with talent going there. And even if he's not directly involved in it, let's use Brian Keith as the example. Well, yeah, if you're a wrestling fan and you've watched any of Brian Keith's stuff, like, you know that he was a mainstay in ROW. So it's like, and there's not just Brian Keith. That's probably one of the more notable ones right now. But there are other talent that have come out of ROW that have went to the major promotions. That being said, where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself getting the opportunity to catch that break at some point? If you were to get the call and say, "Hey, we're gonna say, NXT wants to get a piece of you."
I believe in manifesting. I'm a big, big manifester. Um, and that's because sometimes I like to close my eyes and just imagine like what it's like to be there, like what's the feeling. And every single time that I've done that in the past, I'm just like, I'm going to call Summer Champions one day. It happened. I'm going to call a show in front of my mom one day. That happened. I'm going to call a WWE person's match one day. That happened. So currently, the thing that I've been manifesting and just kind of thinking about lately, there's two things. One, I'm manifesting the phone call that it's going to happen one day. I feel before I realized that I hit my ceiling, or I hit a ceiling 2 weeks ago. I always tell people it's like, when WWE picks me up, I'm gonna do this. When WWE picks me up, I'm gonna do this. I don't say if, I say when, because it's only a matter of time. And I have listened to myself get that phone call in my brain, and I can feel that it's so real. I'm not even kidding. I'm a very emotional person. I do, tear up a lot because I just, I'm that overwhelming emotion is like, I did it. Like, look at this. Look at what I managed.
It's a sense
to
of
do.
accomplishment.
I literally, yeah, I come out of like thinking
Yep.
that crying every single time. And I can already picture myself calling my sister, calling my mom, calling my girlfriend, calling all my friends, everything. I know I just told you guys I had recently got promoted in my job, and that's a fulfilling feeling, because my life journey, I haven't been a manager in 6 years because of a bit of a snafu that happened in my life, and now I finally I'm a manager of the place that I work at, like my shoot job and everything. And I was very proud of that because I worked for it, and I basically did what I would if I had the WWE call. I called my girlfriend, my mom, my sister. I texted all my friends. I was like, I got the job, and everyone was super happy for me. But I can't wait for the day that I get to tell them, it's like, WWE just called and I'm moving to Florida. Like, that is something that I'm manifesting, and I know that it's going to happen. Um, and then the second thing is calling a Sami Zayn World Championship win. Those are my two big manifestations right now that I really, really want. I know the Sami Zayn one is probably not going to be the first one. Hopefully, I'm there for it if he ever does have it, because it's a bit darker now. But back there, I have a WWE Championship replica, and it has the Sami Zayn side plates. So I've been manifesting that for like 2 years now. But it's my prized possession. Nobody gets to touch it, not even me. But yeah, so those are the two things I'm currently manifesting, and I know that it works because a few months ago, AJ Francis, formerly Top Dollar, was at Row, and he saw me teach a promo class because I'm the character development coach at Row, And after class was over, he taught a lot of things that I didn't even think about before and everything. And I thanked him for all the knowledge. And then I shook his hand and I was like, one day I'm going to call a segment of yours, a match of yours, something. I'm telling you it's going to happen. And he's like, hey, good luck. And shook my hand. And unfortunately, he got released. But he's coming here for our next show. And I'm getting to call a segment and or match because he's going to be on the card. And I'm like, it happened. I told it happened. So, I'm gonna tell him when he comes back. It's like we manifested it, dude.
Top Dollar's all over the place. He's been in the ring with so many people that we've talked to over the last couple of months. Man, it's sick. Over here,
He's so knowledgeable too. People do not give him credit for how smart the dude is.
As a character, I fucking hate him. As a person, I have no problems with him. I think I've heard some of his interviews. I've heard how he carries himself and how he conducts himself. But Top Dollar can fucking fuck off. I got nothing for him.
Well, now AJ Francis goes by his real name.
Yeah, AJ. Ask AJ about how his last meeting with Cha Cha turned out. He'll know exactly what you're talking about.
I'll do it this Saturday.
Speaking of his last meeting with Cha Cha, I saw the other day that he posted this nice meme about him throwing Cha Cha through a table at that inside that cage, and making it seem like he had come out on the better end of that. And I just wonder how he goes and covers up a loss like that. I just don't know.
Yeah.
He'll find a way. He always does.
Yeah, we take a look.
He absolutely ignored it and posted it like it was the best thing he'd ever done.
Yeah, we take snipes at Top Dollar on Twitter. He's a fun follow. Let's go back to your manifestation. Yeah, I agree, man. I don't think it's a matter of if. It is definitely a matter of when. And when it happens, bro, you won't be flying solo because John and I are both here in Florida, and we're on. If you go to Orlando, you're in the middle between me and John, so you won't be by yourself, dude. We can make some things happen and throw down, and as the cool kids would say, as long as I'm in bed by 10. Then it'll be all right.
Yeah, old man goes to bed early.
Get off my.
That's when I'll start my editing and my production stuff.
Okay, let me ask you this. Actually, John, you got anything you want to ask before I ask my next question?
I got a billion things.
Go.
I got a billion things.
Go ahead.
So, you were talking just now about getting the call from WWE, but where in the scope of the industry right now? Yes, you always are going to have your top dogs, your TNAs, your AEWs, your WWEs. But the independent scene right now is carving out the territories again like it was in the old days, the 60s and 70s and the 80s. The scene, the landscape of our industry right now is in a very different place than it's been in a very, very long time since the nationalization of the industry, I think. And it isn't just in America that it's doing that. It's all over the globe. We see it in Australia. We see it in the UK. We see it in Portugal. We see it in Germany. We see it in Brazil. We see it, in the States and Canada. Yeah, everywhere. Like, dude, the soft dirt matches that are going on over there right now are insane. And they've got some big names over there fighting in those rings. Dude, it's nuts. With all of the different stuff going on in the industry and all of the opportunity that's out here, and all of these companies, like you said earlier, there's a new company popping up every other day. And there's so many talented roster members that are filling these roles and making these companies. What do you see as the biggest opportunity for us as an industry to move forward in this territories era and make the most out of modern technology and the opportunities that we have moving forward in the industry as a whole? Not just Fed heads or roster members or table guys or fans, but like as an industry, what can we do to ensure that this moves as smoothly into the next generation of a business that it's moving that direction now? How can we get there faster and make it work?
I think at the end of the day, this is my personal opinion, it's about the attitude. Because, like, you can be a phenomenal wrestler, you can be a phenomenal entertainer, but if you have a different reason other than I'm passionate about this because I'm an entertainer, then you're not going to make it far, because there's roles for everybody, right? Booker teaches that all the time. You have a role. If you think that you're above that role at whatever time it's given to you, that's bad attitude. You can think it, now prove it, but do something about it. Don't just be like, oh, I deserve better. I need to do better. I need to do this. I need to do that. Great. Talk to the booker, not just Booker, but the booker, because they're going to be the ones that give you the role that you need, and you're easy to work with, because like, hey, I think I should be in the main event. Let me prove it to you. How can I do that? And for me, I tell people all the time, Booker told me to lose weight. I'm a commentator. Why would he ask me to lose weight? Because we're a TV product. My presentation matters. So I remember when I was going through that, a lot of people were asking me, like, why is he asking you to lose weight? That's stupid. Don't do that. And I'm like, it's the only thing keeping me from where I want to go. So why wouldn't I do it? And it's not about him being Booker T telling me to do something. It's about, I understand that it's about the presentation, right? So whatever he wants as the head of the promotion, I'm going to do it if that's really where I want to go. So that's, I think at the end of the day, attitude is what's going to keep everything going, because I've seen a lot of promotions come up and then they have like one or two, three bad eggs. And then the promoter doesn't pay attention to that. They're like, oh, no, they're drawing me money. It's fine. I was like, we'll see where you end up in a year then. And then a year later, the company's no longer around. So it's like, what, it's about attitude. So if you're getting into wrestling and you want to expand it, but your heart is not in the right place and your attitude's not in the right place, then it's not going to go far. And there's a reason why. And this is, I don't know any stories behind the scenes. I'm just an outsider looking in. I think there's a reason CM Punk worked in WWE, but didn't work in AEW. So they say it's attitude issues, but I think it's something else. So, it's because there's that mutual respect of like, we're here to entertain. We're not here to do anything else. So,
Yeah,
that's my 2 cents on what'll push it further.
You gotta, I'm with you. I don't think it has anything to do with attitude, but we'll save that debate for another time. Listen, if we had to sit down, now keep in mind we have watched several ROW shows, so I feel like I'm gonna know some of the people. We ask everybody this: if you had to give us 5 or 6 people to take a look at, who would they be and why? And once you give me that answer, I'm going to tell you why I asked you that question.
From Raw specifically?
Anybody on the independent scene, whether
from wrestling in general, if you had if you had 10 minutes to turn on a match, whose match are you going to watch? Who's your pick? Who's your go-to like entertainment value in wrestling, period? Besides Sami, because we already know that.
I was gonna say, if we're doing that, Sami's number one, obviously. I think Cody Rhodes obviously has to be up there because there's a reason he's the guy right now. I would probably, because there's obviously different levels to this. I would show, actually, you know what? I just did this for my girlfriend. So Cody Rhodes is up there right now. Bray Wyatt, no matter what, I can put on something from Bray Wyatt and you kind of get the gist of what it's all about. I would do Eddie Guerrero or Kurt Angle.
Oh.
If I can do that match right there, perfect. And then from there, I put this match so high on my list because I'm not even kidding. It's top 5 favorite match of mine. WLC, because that is pure entertainment, and I love it. WLC is one of the greatest things I've ever seen, and those guys committed to the bit. Phenomenal stuff. Then from there, I would probably go to Raw and show them just, I guess, anybody from probably Will Alday from our main event scene currently. And then lastly, I would, my 6th one would probably be something like an MJF or something from AEW, or somebody from AEW. So like either MJF or Hangman. Those would be my 6 people that I'm like, this is wrestling.
Yeah, for sure. Usually, when it comes to that question, I'm asked. We have at the end, we have independent guys on, and they'll give us independent names. What happens there is I take that. Like we'll use Will All Day as the example. Yeah, we've seen Will All Day. We're fans.
Mm-hmm.
But there'll be like if I throw a spotlight show together. Well, not only am I seeing Will All Day, I'm gonna see about 6 or 7 matches with 6 or 7 other people that I wouldn't
Mhm.
have probably sat down and watched prior to, and it's going to open us up to even more talents that are out there on the scene and tearing it up because we thrive on independent wrestling. That's just where it's
Mhm.
at. John, I think, said it earlier. When it comes to us, the indies is where it's at. And much like in the big feds, they have their levels too, and you can
Mhm.
see companies that are trying and that are thriving to those that are thriving, and I think Reality of Wrestling is one of the top ones in the United States. I think that ROW, I think Ohio Valley, of course I'm going to call the nothing should surprise anybody here. MLW is one, and I think CCW down here in Florida is one. For
Mm-hmm.
sure, those come to mind off the top of my head. If you could go to work for any other independent, any other prominent independent organization, not just here in the United States, but across the world, anywhere, where would you want to go? Who would you want to call?
If we're going strictly independent, I I would probably go to Championship Wrestling wherever, either Hollywood, Memphis,
Hmm.
like I said, any of the David Marquez promotions, because I know some of his talent, and I know that that guy has such an eye for television and the NWA style, which I think is something I could learn. Because over there, it's again the old school
It's
style
not
of
that
just
different. Yeah, it
yeah,
is a TV style. It's just his personal one.
yeah, and it's great. I think I could learn a lot from there. And now that we have talent exchange, we've got people from those like Deep South Wrestling, Memphis, and Hollywood all coming together, and we're sending people out and everything too. I think it's just really cool. Um, so I think that from the independents themselves, I think that would be really great. If we're talking about major promotions, not WWE, I think Impact would also be, or I guess TNA now would also be really cool to go to. Because I had a seminar with Tom Hannafin not that
Hmm.
long ago, and he taught me some really good stuff. And I think it would just be really cool working with him and Matt Raywalt. Just phenomenal, a phenomenal team together. I don't know where I would fit on that table, and I don't want to replace either of them, but even just like working under them would be really cool to be under the learning tree and everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. John, shoot them up with one more question,
Dude,
and we'll tie a bow on it.
speaking of the learning tree, it's a very different learning tree being an in-ring talent and being an on-table, on-mic talent and working behind the camera. When you were studying your roles, you already mentioned the guys that you work with on the table and a couple of the guys you worked with in production. What was the biggest lesson that you learned um, coming into the roles that you filled behind the camera, in front of the camera, on the microphone? What was something that to this day is like the one thing that stuck out to you that you learned in your come up and your dues pay and into your career that sticks with you right now as the biggest lesson that you picked up in your training?
The funniest thing is that this is kind of going to go hand in hand with this podcast. I love talking. I can go for ages. I That's why I love like being interviewed, because you throw me a question, I'll give you like a diatribe of like my whole life story, right?
We love it.
The biggest thing is knowing when to shut up and let the moment breathe, because I have to actively stop myself when I'm talking. That way I can let something breathe, or let the moment sink in for people, or just sometimes a moment doesn't need a voice, and sometimes it's just good letting things settle and be like, oh man, like this was happening, like a stare down, like, oh okay, don't say anything. An entrance, if it's like Roxanne Perez coming back to Reality of Wrestling, that didn't need any kind of introduction or anything. It could just be the crowd popping and then be like, well, ladies and gentlemen, this is our main event. Roxanne Perez is back home, something like that. So as much as I love talking, the biggest lesson that stuck with me is learning when to shut up and just like let the moment breathe and everything. So it's been pretty fun just having to.
Man, did you have a teacher for that, or was that just a over the longevity of your career lesson? Because I might need whoever taught you that to teach me too.
Brad Gilmore. I will never
Brad
forget
Gilmore.
When,
I need to get in touch with that guy.
He just told me, it's like, Kirby, stop talking. I was like, okay. There was more to it, but he gave you like the example. It's like, so when this happened, you know how you were just going on and on. It's like, yeah, it's like either shorten it or stop talking. I was like, okay. So he gave me good examples, and I was like, okay, now I get it. So that was a fun conversation.
Constructive criticism at its finest. But it only makes you a more well-rounded performer and commentator.
Yep.
Exactly.
This has been a really fun conversation. I really appreciate your time this evening. I know John has, and John could probably go on for hours as well. But just means that
we haven't even touched on half of the stuff that I want to get into, because anybody that works a table is like right in my space. And I know when Emily was here too, it was the same thing. It was like, there's so many things that I know I could ask that the fans don't know about what you do at the table and how it works and what goes on with it. We could do a whole nother show just on the intricacies of the table and how everything ties together in that behind the scenes roles that the fans never get to see. So yeah, we could do this for hours.
For sure.
Well,
and I'm all for it.
Well, I was about to say we could circle around.
That sounds like a guaranteed second episode.
I'm here for it.
It sounds like
I'm here for it. We could actually throw it on a live stream or do a pre-record, whichever works.
I'm down.
If you want to come on a live stream and watch some row shows, we could definitely do that. We could get your in-depth on the histories and pick your historical brain about it.
I love it. I'm down for it.
Man, we're going to be in touch. We're going to make that happen. This has been a pleasure. We really appreciate the time, my man. If you got anything you want to say to our peoples, go ahead and give some final thoughts.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. Like I said, I love talking. So if it's a conversation where I'm allowed to talk for 6 hours, I will probably take 8 hours. So I just love talking wrestling, and I love talking the industry, because you never know who you're gonna meet, right?
Yes.
So I appreciate the time. Exactly. I appreciate the time for y'all, and to all the listeners, I hope y'all liked it and everything. So if you guys want to keep in touch, I'm basically almost always on social media at Kirby Carreon, which I think you said underneath or up above. There you
right
go.
above the screen. Yep. You were right there.
My name, Kirby Carreon, right there. So don't be afraid to follow me. Shoot me with opinions, with whatever you guys are thinking about wrestling and stuff. But yeah, like I'm one day you're gonna know me as the voice of WWE, and I'm gonna call WrestleMania one day. Because the day that happens, it's gonna be the day that I can fully say that the next day I could drop dead and be like, I lived a happy life. I did it, y'all.
Did everything on the list.
Yeah,
absolutely.
John Cena, getting a John Cena segment is another thing, which I'm meeting him in 2 weeks because he's gonna be here for Comic Palooza, and my girlfriend bought me a ticket. I was like, so
nice.
It's gonna be great. Manifesting. We're gonna manifest it.
That's right. That's gonna be the nature of the episode. Manifest. Well, John, go ahead and take us home, my man, and we'll be back next week for sure.
Mr. Carreon, it has been a pleasure having you on the show. I have had a blast talking to you. I love talking to people from this side of the table. It was definitely where I spent most of my time in the business, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. And it's fun to see that other people are now picking up that shtick and thoroughly passionate about doing that job. Because it is so very important to the industry, and we do appreciate your time. We know that time is money, but wrestling brings everyone together. We say it here, our merch says it all over the place, and it is facts. If it were not for wrestling and our passion for the industry, we wouldn't have met half the people we've met this year, last year, and the years that came before that, or in the years that will come to follow. Guys, if you have not done so already, follow his socials. All the links are right up there. The easiest way to support independent wrestling, buy their merch. The next easiest way is to share, subscribe, and like their stuff. Maybe you can't buy a t-shirt, but one of your friends can, and they might not know they exist if you don't tell them about it. So get those buttons, get those elbows, smash the ding bells, and do all the things. Get behind the curtain with us We've always got new commentary, new shows, new guests coming here behind the curtain all the time. Our Discord is chock full of passionate wrestling fans, and we'd like you to be there too. You guys and gals, it has been a pleasure, and as always, we love each and every one of your faces, and we will see you again next time.